Hi, this chapter is on the nervous system. I will discuss the subdivisions of the nervous system, the different cells of the nervous system, and the anatomy of a neuron. The nervous system is composed of nerve cells or neurons and the supporting cells, the neuroglia. The neurons will transmit the messages or impulses from one nerve to another, or from a nerve to a muscle, or a nerve to a gland. We'll look at the structure of that neuron in a moment. Nerves are made up of bundles of nerve fibers. The nerve fiber is merely a long extension that stretches out from a nerve cell body called an axon. So nerves are bundles of these axons. The neuroglia provide a variety of supportive functions to the neurons. Here's your typical neuron. The neuron consists of a cell body with a nucleus. The star-shaped cell body has many short dendrites and a single long axon. The impulse travels in one direction, in through the dendrites and out through the axon. You can see the nuclei of the neuroglial cells here, the supportive cells. Our nervous system is divided into the central nervous system, or CNS, and peripheral nervous system, or PNS. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord. The peripheral nervous system consists of the cranial nerves and the spinal nerves. The peripheral nervous system is subdivided into the sensory and motor division. The sensory division consists of our sensory receptors that will receive information about the environment, such as our vision, our sense of touch, pain, heat, cold, and the motor division is that division that will act on that information. The motor division is subdivided into the somatic nervous system, or controlled nervous system, or the autonomic nervous system, or automatic nervous system. So the somatic nervous system consists of the skeletal muscles. We have control over those, and the autonomic nervous system, which automatic control over our smooth muscle that lines our arteries or our organs, cardiac muscle in the heart, or glands. General functions of the nervous system are that it receives information from the environment and allows us to act on that information. So our sensory receptors of the peripheral nervous system gather information from our environment, whether it be temperature, sound, light. Then this sensory information is going to enter the brain and be integrated. That is, all those parts of information are going to come together in the brain so that we can act on that information. And so from that information we will have actions that are either conscious or controlled, or subconscious or autonomic. Here are the different neuroglial cells of the central nervous system. First, we have the microglial cell, which is the phagocytic cell. It will destroy old and damaged cell parts, bacteria. The second cell is the astrocyte, which is a star-shaped cell that acts as a go-between between the capillary and the neuron. So it's providing nutrients and gases and hormones to the neuron. The third cell is the ependymal cell that lines the ventricles of the brain and produces cerebrospinal fluid. And this diagram over here shows us the brain and the ventricles located within the brain. These ventricles are cavities lined with ependymal cells that produce cerebrospinal fluid. The last cell is the oligodendrocyte. The oligodendrocyte acts in the central nervous system to produce a myelin sheath. A myelin sheath is a fatty coating around the axon that will speed up transmission of nerve impulses. Here's a close-up of our neuron. First of all, we have our cell body, nucleus, nucleolus, the shorter dendrites that bring impulses into the cell body, and the longer axon that takes impulses away from the cell body. Found in the neuron will be chromatophilic substance, or Nissl bodies, which is basically rough ER for the production of proteins necessary to support the cell. We also find neurofibrils, which are fibers that are part of the cytoskeleton that help support the cell. This axon has branched, and we can see that further branches at the very end have knob-like structures called synaptic knobs at that axon terminal. You can see the Schwann cell here that produces a myelin sheath. Now the Schwann cell is part of the peripheral nervous system. In the central nervous system, the oligodendrocyte produces the myelin sheath. In the peripheral system, it's different. The Schwann cell produces that myelin sheath. And what it does is it wraps around and around that axon, just like a burrito wraps around meat and rice and continually wraps around, and it squeezes the cytoplasm to the outer portion of that cell. You can see the nucleus on the outside there. In between these two Schwann cells is a gap, and that gap is called a node of Ranvier. Here's a close-up of the Schwann cell. The Schwann cell wraps around that axon, squeezing all the cytoplasm to the outside. This outer coating is called the neurolemma. In our nervous system are some cells that are not myelinated, and these are the smaller axons, and they are considered to be unmyelinated. White matter in the nervous system, in the central nervous system, is due to myelinated axons. Gray matter is due to unmyelinated axons in the central nervous system. Now, in the central nervous systems, the nerve cells cannot regenerate, but they can in the peripheral nervous system, and this is due to the neurolemma. The neurolemma is that outer coating of the myelin sheath, and that forms a kind of tunnel through which the neuron can grow and regenerate. Here are some questions for you. Which of the following is not a neuroglial cell? Microglia, astrocyte, oligodendrocyte, Schwann cell, or ventricle? The correct answer is ventricle. What neuroglia is responsible for forming cerebral spinal fluid? Microglia, ependymal cell, astrocyte, oligodendrocyte, or Schwann cell? The correct answer is ependymal cell. These are the cells that line the ventricles or cavities of the brain. Which label is incorrect? The correct answer here is B. You can see by this coating of the axon that this is a myelinated axon. Oligodendrocytes produce the myelin sheath in the peripheral nervous system. True or false? The correct answer is false. Oligodendrocytes produce the myelin sheath in the CNS. Schwann cells produce the myelin sheath in the PNS.